You've been lied to, not once, not by accident, but by the very people who claim to shape you. They told you discipline was about waking up early, about making your bed, about writing goals in a pretty notebook. They told you to smile more, to believe in yourself, to stay motivated. And you believed them because you wanted to believe the war inside you could be won with a quote on your phone screen. But here's the truth. Discipline is not pretty. It's not inspirational. And it sure as hell isn't about motivation. Discipline is war. An invisible war you fight every day against your own mind, against your impulses, against the voice inside you whispering, "Just skip it today." And in this war, there are no spectators. Either you govern yourself like a ruthless general, or you will be governed by everything that seeks to destroy you. This is not a motivational video. This is a manual for war. And if you're not ready to bleed for your own freedom, you might as well surrender now, because what follows is not comfort. It's conquest. But the brutal truth is, this discipline isn't about some random burst of effort. It's not about waking up with some magical wave of motivation. Discipline is war. It is a relentless internal war. And in this war, there are only two outcomes. Either you govern your mind like a prince commands his army, or you will be utterly crushed by your own weakness. Look around. Most people live like decaying cities invaded by their own impulses, sabotaged by their own disorder. They are easy victims, falling for the first temptation that crosses their path. They don't realize that without strategic discipline, there is no freedom, no strength, no victory. Those who fail to impose order upon themselves are doomed to be enslaved by chaos. Niccolo Machiavelli, one of history's most profoundly misunderstood thinkers, knew this better than anyone. While the world peddles easy comforts about being positive or believing in yourself, Machiavelli looked at human nature with the cold, surgical precision of a man who knows a fundamental truth. The world doesn't reward the well-intentioned. It rewards the disciplined. It rewards those who, even under immense pressure, even when surrounded by total disorder, can maintain absolute control. For Machiavelli, discipline wasn't some beautiful moral choice or a lofty ideal. It was a matter of raw survival. Without it, the king and the peasant are both destined for the exact same fate, ruin. And here is the cruelest part of all: the very moment you fail to govern yourself, you hand the keys to your own destiny over to someone or something else, to another force, to any random impulse that blows stronger than your fragile will. Life, like a throne, is never empty. Either you occupy your place with absolute dominion, or you will be governed. So if you think discipline is just waking up early on the days you feel good, forget it. If you believe that simply wanting something is enough to stay the course, you are already lost. This video isn't for those seeking comfortable advice. This is for the ones who are finally ready to take on the brutal, sacred responsibility of forging themselves like a master craftsman forges a sword from fire and steel. True discipline demands constant vigilance, strategic planning, and relentless self-control. It demands you build an internal fortress so powerful that luck has no say, and chaos can find no cracks to enter. Today, you will understand why Machiavelli treated discipline as a state secret, the non-negotiable foundation of all power. And if you have the courage to apply what you are about to learn, you will never be the same again. Machiavelli didn't write to console fools. He wrote to train strategists, to arm the minds of those willing to face the harsh reality of power. When we look at discipline from a Machiavellian lens, we must discard any childish notion of willpower that relies on fleeting motivation. For Machiavelli, discipline is structure. It is strategy. It is survival. Without it, even the most promising man becomes easy prey for the forces he cannot control. In The Prince, Machiavelli makes it devastatingly clear: just as military order creates stability, in a state internal discipline is what allows an individual to withstand adversity. There can be no lasting conquest for those who are slaves to their own impulses. There is no real authority for those who do not first govern themselves. What Machiavelli saw with a clarity that still terrifies us today is that discipline isn't an accessory for peaceful times. It is permanent armor for a permanent war. It's the force that keeps a leader steady against the temptation to act from anger, fear, or vanity. It is the ability to stick to the strategy even when every fiber of your being screams for an impulsive decision. An undisciplined Prince, Machiavelli warned, is more dangerous to himself than any external enemy. His ruin won't come from his adversaries, it will come from the very internal gaps he refused to seal. Acting without calculation, moving without preparation, reacting without reflection. These are the guaranteed paths to your downfall. Discipline is not something you practice when it's convenient. It must be cultivated as a rigorous daily habit, like the constant maintenance of a fortress wall that protects you from inevitable decay. Machiavelli saw us as we are inherently vulnerable to the corruption of desire, pride, and fear. Only through a relentless watch over oneself can we resist this force of self-destruction. And don't you dare think this only applies to rulers. Every single individual who wishes to be the master of their own destiny must apply this exact same mental discipline. If you do not govern your mind, it will be governed by circumstances, by your emotions, by the whims of others. And for Machiavelli, those who are governed by others are already politically dead. They just haven't fallen over yet. But his thinking goes even deeper. He saw the human spirit as a battlefield where discipline is the only line separating glorious triumph from total annihilation. And it's this metaphor of the internal war, and how you must fight it with the discipline of a true commander, that we will explore right now. Picture this: an army marching into battle without training, without strategy, without any obedience to orders. What do you see? A guaranteed slaughter, an inevitable massacre. No amount of spontaneous bravery can save soldiers who don't know how to resist panic, who cannot endure fatigue, who have not mastered their own animal instincts in the face of terror. For Machiavelli, this was precisely what doomed fragile states and mercenary armies: the absence of true discipline. In his discourses on Livy, he writes, "The orders of a wise captain are not obeyed by undisciplined soldiers." This is more than a military observation. It's a profound psychological law. If your mind is an undisciplined army, no conscious command you give it will ever hold. You can make resolutions, set goals, promise yourself you'll change. But if your thoughts, your emotions, and your impulses are not trained to obey, they will desert you at the first sign of a real challenge. You will find yourself sabotaging your own decisions and betraying your own deepest ambitions. Military discipline for Machiavelli was the very essence of victory. It allowed the few to overcome the many, the weak to surpass the strong. A small but disciplined army was infinitely more powerful than a sprawling, undisciplined mob. The same is true for your inner world. A few well-trained thoughts are more powerful than 1,000 conflicting desires. Real power doesn't lie in the number of ideas you have, but in the absolute mastery you exercise over them. Now I want you to reflect with brutal honesty. How many times have you failed not from a lack of talent, but from a lack of control? How many promises have you made to yourself and broken not because you lacked the ability, but because you allowed fatigue, fear, or doubt to seize command? Just as a foolish general loses the battle before it's even fought, you lose the war for your life the moment you abandon your mental discipline. True discipline is waking up every single day with the same unwavering determination, regardless of how you feel. It's obeying your own strategies, not your fleeting emotions. It is taking action even when your body aches and your soul falters, because victory belongs only to those who refuse to retreat from the harshness of the path. Machiavelli knew that battles aren't won by brute force alone, but by relentless order, constant vigilance, and a preparation that anticipates disaster. The same goes for your mind. The modern world glorifies feelings and despises discipline. And that is precisely why so many people live defeated lives, always looking for someone else to blame. But now you know the truth. If you want to master your life, you must become the general of your own inner army. You must train your mind, as Machiavelli would train his troops, without mercy, without excuses, and without concessions. Because on the battlefield of existence, indiscipline is a slow, agonizing death sentence. And if discipline is what forges virtue, that inner power capable of shaping one's own destiny, then we must understand how Machiavelli pitted virtù against fortuna, skill against luck, discipline against chaos. This is how you conquer fate itself. In Machiavelli's brutal, unvarnished world, fate, or fortuna, is not some just force that rewards the good. Fate is a blind, raging river that sweeps away the unprepared and demolishes the poorly protected. And here is the truth that very few have the courage to face. If you are not strong enough to govern your life, chance will govern it for you. And fortuna, for Machiavelli, is a fickle mistress. She may smile upon the bold, but she utterly scorns the weak. In The Prince, he paints a powerful picture. Fortune is like a violent river that when it becomes enraged floods the plains, topples trees and buildings. Everyone flees from it. Yet this does not prevent men, when the weather becomes calm, from taking precautions with dikes and barriers. This metaphor should explode in your mind like a battle horn. The world is unpredictable, violent, and utterly indifferent to your dreams and empty promises. Those who simply wait for luck to smile on them are condemning themselves to ruin. Only those who build their own dikes, a disciplined mind, and an unbreakable will can withstand the storm when it inevitably comes. And this is where virtù enters the fight. For Machiavelli, virtù isn't moral virtue. Virtù is raw internal power. It is the ability to act with strength, intelligence, and resilience in the face of chaos. It's the power to shape circumstances instead of being shaped by them. Virtù is discipline in action. It's your ability to stand firm when everything around you is crumbling, to create opportunity where others see only despair, to resist the childish impulse to blame luck for your own lack of preparation. Great men, for Machiavelli, do not depend on luck. They challenge it. They bend it. They use it as a tool, but never as an excuse. They build their dikes before the flood arrives. They forge their discipline before the crisis demands a strength they do not possess. They train their minds for war, while others are still asleep, cradled by the sweet illusion that everything will just work out in the end. Now look at your own life with that same brutal honesty. How many times have you just waited for things to get better on their own? How many times have you hidden behind the excuse that the timing isn't right? Fortune is unpredictable, but it is not invincible. Those who depend on her are doomed. Those who cultivate virtù are destined to win. But how do you turn this philosophy into practice? How do you stop being a plaything of luck and become the architect of your own destiny? That brings us to the great modern illusion about discipline and why almost everyone fails so miserably in their attempt to achieve it. Today, the word discipline has been hijacked. It's been sanitized, turned into a shelf product, and sold back to you with self-help slogans and easy tricks. They tell you to create automatic habits, to use apps, planners, and colorful spreadsheets, as if humanity's oldest and bloodiest battle, the war for self-mastery, could be won with a phone reminder and a motivational quote. This modern view is a grotesque farce. Machiavelli, were he alive today, would laugh at this pathetic naivety. He knew true discipline is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is not something you install in your life like a piece of software. Discipline is pain. It is a declared open war against everything inside you that is weak, lazy, and cowardly. You fail because you've been conditioned to seek shortcuts. You've been trained to believe that if you just find the right hack or the perfect habit, your life will magically fall into place. But real discipline is not born from comfort. It is forged in confrontation. It is not about waking up inspired to act. It is about acting even when your body is screaming for rest, even when your mind is trying to negotiate the terms of its surrender. Machiavelli taught that those who wait for the perfect moment are already defeated. The preparation must be done in the calm, not when the storm has already hit. Discipline is built in the monotonous, boring days, in the silent moments, in the invisible battles you fight when no one is watching. It is in what no one sees that true power is forged. But the modern mindset treats failure as just part of the process. You're taught to forgive yourself too easily, to reward yourself for every tiny victory, as if life were a self-esteem competition and not a brutal game of survival. And while you anesthetize yourself with comforting excuses, your true potential rots away inside you. Modern discipline is emotional. It depends on your mood, your motivation, your environment. The discipline Machiavelli demanded is structural. It ignores mood. It despises motivation. It imposes itself like a mental fortress built of cold, hard stone, not flimsy emotion. Those who wait to feel ready, who wait for the stars to perfectly align before they act, live like cattle, being led to the slaughter, passively waiting for someone else to decide their fate. If you want to build the kind of discipline that forges empires, you must do what most will never dare to do: abandon the need to feel comfortable. Accept that pain is a part of the process. Embrace the hardship as the very tool that forges you. Transform your mind into a training ground where weaknesses are not tolerated but systematically eliminated. And if you have truly understood the gravity of what we are discussing, then you are ready for the final step. How to build step by step a brutal and strategic routine based on Machiavelli's principles. A routine so powerful that your discipline becomes unbreakable. That is what we will build right now. It's time to abandon empty theory. If you want to win, you must turn discipline into brutal, daily, inflexible practice. It is not enough to understand discipline as a concept. You must build a structure so solid that your laziness, your fear, and your doubt have no room left to breathe. Machiavelli taught that the wise prince anticipates disaster. He builds his defenses long before he needs them. You must do the same with your mind. Establish your internal war strategies before the battle begins. If you wake up every day waiting to see how you feel before you act, you have already lost. Your victory or defeat is decided in the first silent hours of the morning, long before the world even knows you're in the game. Here is the method. 1. Constant vigilance. Daily self-inspection. Every single day, without exception, you must observe your own thoughts and behaviors as a general inspects his army before battle. Ask yourself, where am I leaving gaps? At what moment are my emotions seizing command? If you allow one small habit of laziness, one innocent excuse, or one silly distraction to take root, know this: these are the tiny cracks through which failure will invade your fortress. Imagine your mind is a castle. Every act of laziness is a stone you pull from your own wall. Every moment of procrastination is a catapult aimed directly at your own defenses. Constant vigilance means you act like the commander who, even in times of peace, inspects his walls every day, corrects flaws immediately, and punishes any sign of decay without mercy. 2. Clear strategy. Routines that eliminate decision. You must understand a brutal truth. Your brain, if given a choice, will always choose the path of least resistance. Every decision drains energy. Every doubt consumes willpower. Machiavelli taught that in times of uncertainty, those who hesitate are the first to die. Therefore, building discipline begins by eliminating as many daily decisions as possible. Rigid routines are not a prison. They are the highest form of freedom. You must establish fixed times to wake up, to work, to study, to train, and you adhere to them as a soldier follows orders on the battlefield. Here's a practical example. If you wait to decide whether to train after a long, tiring day, guess what? You won't train. Your brain will sabotage you with 1,000 good reasons. Now, if you make training a non-negotiable commitment, scheduled into your day as part of your very identity, there is no room for internal debate. Training just happens. Period. 3. Relentless reinforcement. Real consequences for failure. In the real world, actions have consequences. In war, a mistake isn't a minor detail. It's the difference between life and death. You must create real consequences for your own failures. If you fail to follow your routine, there must be an immediate, tangible, and painful price to pay, so that your mind understands that failure is not an acceptable option. Here's a practical example. Make a public commitment. If you fail to follow your routine, you must donate money to a cause you despise. You must tell your friends that you failed. You must carry the weight of that shame and loss. More importantly, you must understand that discipline is not just about seeking rewards. It is primarily about avoiding total ruin. Think of a soldier in training. He doesn't choose to run 5 miles in the rain because he feels motivated. He runs because there is a chain of command. He runs because he knows that failure means punishment, shame, and expulsion. Your mind must work the same way. It obeys because it is the command, not because it is comfortable. This is the truth few are willing to accept. Building real discipline is about putting chains on yourself before life puts shackles on you. It is about making hardship a daily ritual. It is about waking up every day and without a single shred of self-pity, marching toward your goal with the cold, relentless resolve of a commander. Now that you know what you must do, a deeper question arises. Why, despite knowing all this, do so many people continue to sabotage their own lives? It is this silent sabotage, this war against the self, that we will expose and destroy in the next part. If you have made it this far, you must understand one final thing. Knowledge without action is cowardice. Many will hear these words, feel their cutting truth, and yet they will return to their old lives of excuses, procrastination, and self-sabotage. They will go back to being subjects of their own impulses, slaves to their own weaknesses, begging for crumbs of luck while cursing their fate. But a precious few, will make the choice that transforms ordinary men into commanders of their own destiny. The choice to stop being governed and to start governing. The choice to build true discipline not as an ornament for good days, but as the unbreakable engine that powers your entire existence. Machiavelli taught us that to govern a state without discipline is an invitation to chaos and collapse. Now you know that to govern your own life without discipline is exactly the same. Your mind is your territory. Your habits are your troops. Your decisions are your strategies of war. You will be the prince or you will be the prisoner. There is no middle ground. There never was. Perhaps you think you still have time, that you can start tomorrow or next week or when things get better. But Machiavelli warned us, the prince who waits for the perfect moment to act will be destroyed by the first tide of misfortune. The moment is now. While you still have the strength, while you can still raise the walls of your inner fortress, discipline yourself not for pleasure, not for approval, not for aesthetics. Discipline yourself because your life depends on it, because your freedom depends on it, because your greatness demands it. And now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, write, "I choose to be my own prince." Write this as a public commitment. Let this be recorded as the first conscious act of discipline on your new path. This isn't for me, it is for you, so that you will remember that the first step to mastering the world is mastering yourself. And most importantly, do not stop here. Continue your transformation. The next video is vital for strengthening your mind even further, ensuring that every decision you make from this day forward is a firm step toward total mastery over yourself. Watch, reflect, evolve. You are only just beginning to forge who you are truly meant to be.